So if you remember a few months back when I began my channel's ongoing series from concept to release, I covered Jetpack Joyride for the first video in the series, as it's one of my favourite mobile games of all time, and one of Halfbrick's finest games as well, and one of their most successful, and I'm sure most of you guys have played the game before. And as of recently, we got some pretty big news on the game from Halfbrick as said in the title of this video. Although I don't do news content too often on my channel, I thought as I've already made a video on the game before, and as it's one of my personal favourites like I mentioned before, I'd talk about this announcement. Anyway, with that out of the way, you've heard the title. 10 years after the original came out, Halfbrick are releasing a sequel to Jetpack Joyride, known as Jetpack Joyride 2 Bullet Dash. Now before you get disappointed as most mobile game sequels aren't very good, or feel like total cash grabs over the originals, this one is actually pretty good from what I've played so far. And as Halfbrick and other mobile game studios have been developing sequels to hit games as of recently, it was only a matter of time before we got the long-awaited sequel to one of Halfbrick's finest titles. And without further ado, here are my first impressions and opinion on Jetpack Joyride 2. So this sequel was announced a couple of days before this video released on the 27th of February 2021, almost 10 years since Jetpack Joyride 1 released, where Halfbrick uploaded a reveal trailer on their YouTube channel, which gave us a look at the animation setting up the game with various stake fires coming back to the lab of legitimate science to battle Professor Brains, which I think is pretty cool. With us getting a look at some gameplay as well, which introduces a lot of new content which I'll talk about shortly. This trailer also feels like it came straight out the early 2010s, and truly does feel like an actual mobile game trailer and not full of clickbait, which is why I absolutely love Halfbrick, as they don't tend to take their microtransactions and ads equal money formula to a massive extent in their games. But instead of talking about the trailer, I actually managed to get my hands on an APK of the game itself, as it's not currently available in all countries, only a select few at the moment, as it's currently being soft launched. Although Halfbrick haven't given too much information on the worldwide release as of yet, rest assured though the game will probably release in the coming months, so you'll be able to download it then. So through the magic of BlueStacks, let's take a look at Jetpack Joyride 2. So upon opening the game, the opening Halfbrick and Jetpack Joyride logos have been updated, with new artwork and little sound effects, which I think is a small but pretty cool change. Once you're actually into the game and completed the tutorial, you'll notice that an awful lot has been changed with this sequel for the better and for the worse for some people. Let's begin with gameplay. First off, Barry still breaks through the wall at the beginning to get into the lab like the original, and boy, we are thrown into a lot of change. The art style of the game has been completely revamped and softened, gone as a 16-bit style from the original, rest in peace old friend, which has been replaced with a new modern 2D art style, as seen in many other modern mobile games. Although I do miss the old style, this new style definitely does its job making the game feel more modern and ready for a new generation. The whole look and feel of the game as well as the sprites and the artwork too, feels a lot closer to Halfbrick's official animations of the game. Pretty nice change in my opinion, especially Barry's death animation weirdly enough, having little profit birds fly around him, pretty cool nod to the original. A new soundtrack's been introduced with this sequel which I think is amazing. It retains that sense of the action and rock from the original, whilst modernising and revamping it. Oh yeah, and before we continue, a lot of these changes which I'm going to mention involve modernising the game, which is one major thing this sequel introduces. Once you're actually playing the game, you'll see the new animations implemented to go along with the new art style, and as much as I've praised the game so far, these definitely still need some work in my opinion, as these ones just lack personality like the originals, and just feel rather unfinished in my opinion. In fact, they feel closer to generic animation you'd see in a cartoon instead of a video game. You can notice this with the explosion effects, which to be honest feel like a major downgrade from the original. But if Halfbrick's put some more work in the animations before the game releases, I think that'll be a massive improvement, as these ones are alright, but definitely are a big downgrade. Gameplay itself feels close to the original. The controls feel slightly smoother, although I don't think this will bother most players too much. But I also have to mention how fast gameplay is now, as well as the difficulty of the game, which I think is a lot more difficult than its predecessor for many reasons. Most harmful objects from the original like zappers and missiles do return for the sequel. The game now has different drone enemies to shoot at, as well as a ton of new bosses to defeat, which I think is one major addition I'm sure many of you will be looking forward to. And to go along with the difficulty increase which I mentioned before, new weapon power-ups have been introduced which I'll talk about a little bit later, as well as a ton of new vehicles, which could be upgraded too to become even more effective later on in the game. Barry's jetpack also now has a built-in weapon which enables automatically to destroy enemies, this one swapping with power-up weapons which appear throughout playing the game. Jetpack Joyride 2, as of making this video, currently has a select few vehicles, including Big Stomper, UFO vehicle, and the Gravity Suit Mark II, with more vehicles coming soon, which I hope will be more from the original as well as brand new vehicles. You also now have to unlock the vehicles by playing the game more, instead of getting them all at once like in the original. And to add to that, vehicles and power-ups also now have time limits. instead of the game speeding up until you get hit and lose your vehicle. Loads of new power-ups also appear throughout playing the game, such as boosts which can still be found throughout levels, although other in-game power-ups from the original I've noticed aren't in the game as of yet, like Sam. It's still unclear whether they'll be added or not, although from the look of this massive empty space in the garage, I think Sam will be added eventually at some point. Barry now also has health to go to difficulty increase, so you won't die after being hit once. XP has also been added to the game to go along with coins and gems, as well as research points which can be used to get new power-ups, which I'll explain more about shortly. The more XP you gain, the more you'll level up and progress on the experience road. A new free battle pass system where you get different rewards for when you level up, like coins, research points and new vehicles too. Though with the introduction of XP, it doesn't mean that missions have been removed, as they're coming in a later update, which will likely reward you with XP, research points, gems and coins when completed. Although I think this means the star mission system might be gone for good, although badges might be implemented sometime before release too. This game surprisingly though isn't an endless runner. Instead it's been split into different acts which take you to different places in the Jetpack Joyride universe, where you fly around in a jetpack for a little bit and then fight a boss at the end to progress to the next act. Which finally means we have a Jetpack Joyride level 2. This new system makes the game blend in more with Monster Dash and Age of Zombies, as they both have these types of levels. Definitely one of the biggest things this sequel has to differentiate itself from the original. With all this new content added, it unfortunately means that some content has been removed. Some which I've noticed which aren't present in the game as of yet are spin tokens, meaning the slot machine as far as I'm aware is no longer in the game, with you now having to spend gems to get revived when you die, or watch an ad. You also earn coins, XP and research points when a run ends. Outside of gameplay though, you can see that there's a brand new main menu which has different sections where you can upgrade things such as Barry's health and the jetpack's built-in weapons, like you can with power-ups by spending coins. Weapon power-ups can also be bought with research points, upgraded with coins in the power-ups section along with vehicles in the garage section of the menu. Microtransactions are also in the game of course to buy gems which can be used to buy research points, coins and energy, which brings me to my next point. One of the most annoying additions to the sequel is energy, which limits the amount of times you can play, as when you run out, you have to buy more or wait for them to recharge, like the lives in Angry Birds 2. And that is pretty much all that Jetpack Joyride 2 has to offer as of now. Bear in mind the game is still in a soft launch state as of recording this video, meaning a lot more work still needs to be done with the animations, transitions of power-ups from the previous game, and refining of features before it gets released. Although if you've been closely watching this video, you'll notice that this game feels way more monetized than the original game for many reasons. First off, things like the energy system and gems really do make it feel like Halfbrick are pushing you more towards buying more stuff in game. But before you get put off by this, despite the game feeling a lot more monetized than the original, it's nowhere near as bad as other games, where they pretty much just shove ads down players' throats and force them to buy microtransactions to progress. In this game though, it's still completely optional. From what I've seen, you only get ads by deciding to watch one for rewards. They don't happen automatically like in many other games. It's also completely optional to buy in-game currency, and the game is more than playable without them, as mobile games should be. Now you could say that this sequel doesn't really have a reason to exist, and that Halfbrick could have shoved all this into one big update for the original, and I have to say I disagree with that. Think about it this way, if Halfbrick shoved all these new features and microtransaction system into the original, I feel as if it would ruin the original game we've grown to love, and it would make it feel way too different and modern. I feel as if a good example of this happening is with Fortnite. Now, I know a lot of people don't like this game, but bear with me here. When the game first launched, it was a fun, simple battle royale you'd play with friends. But more and more updates adding and removing different mixed received weapons, despite some of them being really good, which made the game worse and turned the community on its head. I think in this case, Halfbrick made the right decision by making another Jetpack Joyride game to modernise it in order to flow with the current mobile game industry. For example, implementing more microtransactions, whilst also alongside it introducing new content, and most importantly staying loyal to the original. Even though they got rid of the 16-bit art style and many other features of the original, Halfbrick made this sequel enjoyable for existing players and for future players as well. So now we have two Jetpack Joyride games, and we can of course still enjoy the original as we remember it. That's off to Halfbrick here. Overall, I think Jetpack Joyride 2 in its current state is a great game, despite it still needing some refining, which of course will be done by the time it comes out. Although I do feel like this is a case of nothing beats the original with Jetpack Joyride, as the original game is so iconic and loved, it'll be extremely difficult task for Halfbrick to make a sequel worthy of being better than the original. I think most people would agree with me here, saying that it is great the sequel, but it just can't beat the original. From a reviewer's perspective, I'd give Jetpack Joyride 2 an 8 out of 10. It's a game which feels straight like a game from the early 2010s, modelized perfectly for a new generation, whilst feeling like a true mobile game without all the ads and clickbait of course. And there you have it! those are my impressions and I guess kind of a review of Jetpack Joyride 2. But just before the video ends, I'd like to thank our sponsor Raid Shadow Legends. Oh, of course not, I'm not really relevant enough to be blessed by the gods themselves, Raid Shadow Legends. Instead, I'd like to take some time to talk about my Discord server. If you didn't already know, I have a Discord server called MrRetroGeek's Discord Laboratory, where we talk about things like video games, music, tech, YouTube, all the list goes on. We do events and giveaways from time to time. We also have Discord game bots like Dank Memus, you can do Discord gambling. And if you remember the mobile game Akinator, we do have a bot version of that, as well as a Pokemon Discord bot game, and so much more. And in my server, you can ask me anything about myself or the channel, suggest new video ideas, and suggest new things for the server too. My Discord is also the best place to stay up to date with the latest MRG videos and updates, as well as talk to myself. So what are you waiting for? Feel free to join, the link is in the description. Now with that little plug out the way, let me know your thoughts on Jetpack Joyride 2 down below in the comments. And as always, if you're new to the channel, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. Make sure to share the video too, as that helps out a lot. Feel free to check out my Twitter, Instagram, and Discord server too, don't forget about that. Links to all are in the description. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.